There's a moment that happens after you leave your country that feels very different from homesickness. It's not missing food, it's not missing people, it's not even missing familiarity. It's realizing that distance alone doesn't give you belonging. You can be gone for years, decades even, and still feel unfinished, not lost, not confused, just not placed. This video is about a realization many people come to late, quietly, and without drama. That leaving doesn't automatically free you. It just changes which systems you answer to. And the difference between escaping and actually immigrating are much bigger than people want to admit. Under the video where I talked about escaping the US but still feeling owned by the system, someone left a long comment. It wasn't hostile, it wasn't defensive, it wasn't emotional. It was grounded. They said they had been away from the US for 25 years, no intention of returning. And then they said something that stuck with a lot of people. They said, in essence, tourists try to insert themselves at the top wherever they go. It never works. Running away never works. You have to be running towards something. A real immigrant starts at the bottom. You learn the rules, you find the skills shortages, you learn the language, you put in the time, and they ended with something simple. That's just being an adult. 31 people liked that comment. Not because it was polite, but because it was clarifying. This wasn't a comment about feelings. It was a comment about structure. It drew a line between leaving and belonging, between escape and replacement. And a lot of people felt seen by that distinction, even if they didn't fully agree with every word. Because deep down, most people who leave eventually realize this. You don't step outside systems, you trade them. Most people don't leave because they want to dominate a new country. They leave because they're tired. Tired of friction, tired of precarity, tired of feeling like their effort never quite converts into stability. So the story they tell themselves is simple. If I go somewhere else, things will finally make sense. But what no one explains clearly is that systems don't disappear when you cross borders. They just become unfamiliar. And unfamiliar systems feel lighter at first because you don't yet know where they resist you. This is where people diverge, not morally, not politically, but psychologically. Some people never move past the escape phase. They live lightly, they stay temporary even when they've been somewhere for years. They learn just enough to survive, but not enough to anchor. And they tell themselves that freedom means not being tied down. Others go all in on integration. They accept the loss of status, they accept starting over, they accept being nobody again. They rebuild identity slowly, deliberately. And then there are people caught between those two states. Not tourists, not fully immigrants. They did the paperwork, they learned the rules, but something inside never quite relocated. The comment was blunt about this part. A true immigrant starts at the bottom. That sentence lands hard because it touches something people rarely admit out loud. Starting at the bottom doesn't just mean income, it means status, competence, confidence. It means becoming invisible again. For people who left precisely because they felt unseen, that can feel like punishment. So some resist it, some delay it, some intellectualize around it. Not because they're lazy, but because ego loss feels like death when identity is already fragile. When people hear tourist mentality, they think it means disrespect, but often it really means emotional distance. Tourists don't let the place shape them, they observe it. Immigrants let the place change who they are. And that difference isn't about effort, it's about willingness to be unformed for a while. That's what makes this hard. The comment mentioned language, not as a tip, but as a signal. Language isn't just communication, it's permission. It's how systems decide whether to open to you. When you don't speak the language, you're always slightly outside the room. And for people who left a country where they finally understood the rules, that outsider feeling can quietly reactivate the very frustration they were escaping. The commenter says something else that matters, that cutting ties completely is possible, but not for everyone. That you have to be secure in your identity to do it. This is where the video slows down, because identity is the part no one prepares you for. If your sense of self was tightly bound to being competent, being recognized, being ahead, then starting over isn't just logistical, it's existential. And some people don't realize that what they were really running from was an identity that no longer fit. Here's the perspective that changes how this comment lands. Escaping isn't immature, but it's incomplete. Immigration isn't noble, but it's demanding. And adulthood, in this context, isn't about grit or discipline. It's about accepting that belonging costs something, and that cost is paid in time, humility, or redefinition. Not everyone wants to pay it. Not everyone should. But pretending the cost doesn't exist creates the quiet dissatisfaction so many people feel years later. People didn't like that comment because it was harsh. They liked it because it named a rule they had already bumped into. A rule they felt before they could even articulate it. That you don't outrun systems. You renegotiate your place inside them. Some viewers will hear this and feel relief. Others will feel resistance. Both reactions make sense because this isn't about being right or wrong. It's about recognizing where you are in the process. Still escaping, actively rebuilding, or quietly suspended between the two. If that comment resonated with you, it doesn't mean you failed, and it doesn't mean you're behind. It just means you're noticing that distance alone isn't the same thing as belonging. And once you see that difference, can't unsee it. What you do with it isn't something anyone else can decide for you.